What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I'm out here in the shop this afternoon tonight. We're going to be doing a little bit of work on the dozer here. I have ordered me a machine mounted laser receiver. I did not get the one that I wanted because of price. So I ordered another one that had some pretty good reviews. It was a little cheaper, and it comes with the mount and everything for a dozer blade mount, and also for a excavator boom, the magnets. And so it come out a little cheaper doing it that way. I hope it's a good quality product that works. I don't know, but either way, I need to build a mount for the dozer blade, and regardless of whatever receiver, most of these, from what I can tell by researching the internet, use about 1.75 inch outside diameter pipe. And so I need to fabricate a bracket on this dozer blade. The newer ones already come with it, but I need to make some kind of mounting plate here to mount me a pole to hold this laser receiver. And I've got some pieces of plate here, and my plan is to cut this into probably a square. That notch is I cut something out of that already, but anyway, I'm going to make this a square, I think. I'll trim it down, whatever it takes to make this fit, and I think I'm going to put one on each side. I think this is a good location for it right here on each side of these bars, and I can weld around that, and that'll have some additional support to it and everything. I could also go down here, but then I'd have to put more of a mount in there to reinforce it. I'm thinking if I cut a notch in it like that, that I can put it around there on each side. But anyway, I had to drill me a bolt pattern in here, and then make a pole over there. I've got a piece of 1.75 inch solid rod over there that I may use for this. I don't really have another use for it. I don't need solid rod for this. A piece of pipe would be fine, but I already have that laying over there, and I've been wondering what to do with it, so I may use it for that. Let me get this over here and get me some lines marked on this with a square, figure out exactly what I'm going to do here, and we'll see how this goes. All right, guys, so I've laid me out a square out of this circle. This is another one of these. I picked these up a place I had some metal work done. I think when I had a dozer blade, they had these that was cutouts from something, and a guy let me get them as they were going in the scrap bin. Anyways, I figured they'd come in handy for making brackets and stuff, so that's the reason I got these circles laying around, doing little knick-knack stuff like this instead of having to buy a new sheet of metal. Got these at scrap price. So anyways, we got me a square marked out here with framing square. It's about 7.5 inches square. So I'm going to cut this out with a torch, and then we'll see if we can make us a notch in the middle of this here. I could do it all at once, but I'd rather cut this out and get it sanded down with a flat disc. I make another one like it, and then come back and cut the notch, I think, to where I want it to fit. And hopefully this is going to be big enough by the time I cut the notch that I'll still have enough room. That's what I'm worried about here. I may need to make this thing a little bit longer instead of a directly square. Make it a little bit longer than it is wide. All right, guys, so I redrew that. I made it a rectangle instead of a square. If I cut my notch out of the end of the rectangle here, I think it'll give me 6 inch wide square here, roughly 6 inches the other way after I cut my notch. So we should have a 6 by 6 roughly mounting surface to mount a plate and a pole on and drill our holes on. That's what I'm hoping for. So if I can make sure to cut the right line here, not the ones I scribbled out, we should be good. So I'll let that cool off and I'll make some marks where my notch goes right there. Notch it out, and I'll run across it with a flat disc and get it all sanded down there, and we'll test fit it. All right, guys, so I've got the plates made here, two for the blade, the one for the mast thing that we're making. Trying to get some holes drilled in here. You could make two of these mast holes and put a receiver on each side to keep the blade angle straight, but the price of these things, we're going to go with one, and I should be able to eyeball pretty close on the left and right, and whenever you make your next pass, I mean, it'll kind of tell you anyways. But just trying to get these holes drilled now so we have everything fabricated, and we can get them welded on there. Slug that comes loose on the bottom, so we have to move the slug there like so. Then you can line back up with that hole and go back down in there like that. I think they do make some cutters that you can drill through two plates, but these are not those. Separate because the drill magnets on the top plate and the bottom plate come apart. We'll just got to clamp this in down here. So this is our piece of 1 3/4 solid rod. That was a pin for forklift forks, the pivot style forklift forks I had at one time. Anyway, I don't know what I'll ever do with it. It's been over there in the floor, so we're going to use it for this since I got it. Way overkill. Just going to square the corners, the ends of it up here. get the ends of that thing cleaned up. I'm gonna put a bevel on it so I can weld it, and everything will be fabricated and ready to be welded. All right, guys, so I got this thing up here, put a little bevel on it. I did not get carried away on it. This thing has only got to hold about a 5-pound laser detector, so it's way overkill being solid rod anyway. So I did want to put a little bevel on it though, and I'm gonna see if I can get this thing tacked up. I just got it held up there with magnets now, so I'm gonna tack it, and then I'm probably gonna wait to bolt this thing down to weld it, because that weld is gonna want to draw this plate and it's gonna bow it. And so if I have some bolts in here, it'll draw a little less. All right, guys, so I got this set up here. I want it to be level with the blade sitting on the ground. That way when you start cutting, it'll be level. Obviously that's gonna change as you raise it up and when you let it down. But we got it pretty level right there. Pretty level that way. So let's see if I can get a tack on it. And then I'm gonna weld it out in here, around there, and it should be good. So I got both of those welded on there. I may go back and put a gusset up under the center here. I'm not going to do that tonight. I will look and see what I got scrapped a day or two, and cut me a little gusset triangle out from under the bottom of that, and put it up under there. That way, if something bumps it, it won't just bend this, and it'll keep this from flexing as well. I decided to go ahead and weld this because I don't have any 1/2-inch bolts to bolt it on there with, but you can see that it warped that plate right there a little bit. What I'm going to do is unwarp it, or try to. Usually you can take a torch and heat the same area that you welded on the opposite side and let it draw, and when it draws, it'll straighten it back up. So that's what we're going to do. or let it completely cool. And you've got to let it completely cool to get any results out of it, because when you heat that, it expands the metal, which is going to make it want to warp more. When it cools off completely, it shrinks back. It shrinks back more than it expands. At least it's supposed to. So we'll let that cool off and we'll take a look at it. All right guys, after this thing cooled down, it flattened back out just like I told you it would there. As you see, it set right back down flat. Problem is, this thing is not perfectly vertical like I would like. It's good enough it would work. But what I'm probably going to have to do is put some bolts in this, heat this thing back up again, and put a come along on the top of it and pull it and try to get it straight like I want it. I'd like it to be straight, and it is not. Also, my plate fits a little better one way than it is other. It's not 100% straight either. It's plenty good enough to work for something I threw together out of scrap metal, but I'm not 100% happy with it. The plates on the dozer come out good. This base plate here did not come out as well as I would have liked it to. And I cut those holes there on it with a torch because I was already cutting and had the torch in my hand, so I decided I'd go ahead and cut them. But anyway, you could probably tell that. The rest of them I used a mag drill on. But it fits better like that, as you see on that way. But as I say, it's just not perfectly vertical. I don't know if you can pick it up on camera, but it's leaning that way just a little bit, and it's leaning forward a little bit that way. I mean, it would work, but I'm gonna probably try to heat it a little bit and straighten it just because I want to do that. So anyway, that's all I'm doing with it tonight. All right guys, so I've got my gussets made and welded in place up under there. As you see, I just put one in the center on each one of these instead of putting one on the outsides, because I figured that would be sufficient enough, and I didn't feel like making two more gussets. And anyway, I got this pole painted up here, and we may have to make some modifications to this. I don't know, because the length of this being so long, I'm worried about vibration as you're grading this pole shaking like this. I don't know if that'll be an issue or not. I guess we'll find out. If it is, we'll have to get some square tubing about this size here that this will slide into, and weld the square tubing on the base plate right here, and that will solid that up, and we can put 2 bolts in it. Instead of this being welded directly that way, have the square tubing welded to that. And then this will slide in there with 2 bolts. If we have to make that modification, I will shorten this up so that it don't vibrate as much. But we're gonna try that and see how that works, I guess. So before I show you what laser receiver I went with for this pole and what laser I decided to go with and why, and the reason we're doing this, I thought I'd take just a minute to shout out a couple of YouTube channels I've been watching for a while. They're both relatively new channels within about the last year or so. So if you like excavation type work with dozers, excavators, that sort of thing, you can go check these guys out in your spare time. One of them is TriStar Digging is the name of his channel. His name is Sam. He's got a 308 E2 Cat excavator and a D5 K2 dozer, I believe, and he's got a 305 or 305 and a half Cat excavator as well, skid steer, all sorts of stuff. He's just got a mulcher for that 308. And so he does all kind of stuff from mulching to general pad work, drainage, that sort of stuff. So if you're into that, go check his channel out. There's another guy, channel called Smithworks. I believe he's out of Mississippi, and I think Sam is out of Tennessee. But anyway, Smithworks, I believe he's out of Mississippi. He had a 309. That's when I generally discovered his channel. He had a 309 Cat excavator, and he had some issues with it. And I think those videos did pretty well for him. I think he's sitting at about 1,000 subscribers at the time of filming this. And but anyway, you go check his out. He's got rid of the 309 now. He's got a 313, and then he's got a 306 as a smaller machine. He don't have a dozer, I don't believe yet, but he probably will have sometime in the future. So if you want to go check those guys out and subscribe and leave them a comment, tell them I sent you, I'm sure they'd appreciate it. All right, guys. So this is the laser receiver that I went with. This is made by Johnson, and this is what it looks like right here. Now I went with this for a couple of reasons. One, it was cheaper. Two, it comes with the mounts that you see here, which these mounts here is the mounts we'll be using to go around that pole here. You remove these magnets and put these on there, you put it on the pole. And that's a pretty nice feature to have both sets. All the other laser receivers that I've seen, they come with this style for the pole, but you have to buy the magnet set separately, which can be quite spendy. This one also, it has an internal built-in battery, but it does come with a 12 volt and 24 volt setup here and a charger for your battery there. So whether you have a 12 volt setup or a 24 volt setup, you can plug it in, or you can use this charger here and charge your internal battery right here. And so the way this works is you have lights here. Let me turn it on where you can see you have a green light in the middle, power button up here, and it's going to flash. Got a red light, green light, red light. And so that tells you where you're at, receives the laser beam through these things over here, this 360 degree detector. And so you see there all the way around. And it receives that laser and tells you whereabouts you are. When you get a green light, you're pretty close. And it has a fine adjustment and a coarse adjustment. That's the fine adjustment. That's the coarse adjustment when it flashes there. So that determines how much range of accuracy you get. On coarse, it's probably going to be about an inch. Somewhere in this green slot right here is about where you will be, and that's probably what you would be using mostly. If you put it on fine, that's supposed to get you on down to, you know, pretty much a quarter of an inch or something, which with a machine grading, it's really not practical unless it's a very small area, you know, a small pad or something. So anyway, if you're doing a small area, say a shot pad or something like that, a small shot pad, you want to get real precise, you can turn it on fine and get a little better accuracy out of it. If you're doing a large area, large drainage project, coarse is probably going to be sufficient for you. You hold down the power button and it'll flash everything to let you know it turned off. And so this one only has a coarse and fine adjustment, and I think these are all made in the same place, and you can guess where that's at. There's a couple different brands that have some that look very, very similar to this right here, but they have different accessories and stuff in the kit with it. Some of them will have a remote that will come, that's basically a repeater box that you hook into this right here and put it in your cab if you cannot see this here out in front of you or whatever. If you got it mounted in a location you can't see it. These magnets here will let you stick this on the side of an excavator boom, and these are pretty strong magnets right here, so you can stick this on the side of an excavator arm, and as long as you got that arm plumb, you could dig a ditch with it. And the cool thing about this is instead of have a machine installed solution, this here will let you slot this on the side of a rental or whatever and still get work done without having a machine that's tied up with all the stuff tied into the machine. So that's another good thing about it. I was originally going to go with a TopCon unit instead of this, but this was a good bit cheaper, and as I say, it come with both sets of mounts and everything, so that's why I went this. I'll throw a link in the description if anybody's interested in this right here. So it comes with this little Allen wrench right here. In order to take these magnets off, it's got a little set screw in them somewhere here, and that's what we need to do now so that we can set this up to mount on this blade here. It's got a little set screw. You back out, and we'll go ahead and loosen this one here up. So this dozer is only, this is an older dozer, and it only has the manual valve body on it. It does not have electronic valves on it. So this is an indicator only system that tells the operator what he or she needs to do as far as controlling the blade. You just go by these right here, and if it says go up, you move the lever with your hand for it to go up. If it says go down, you do the opposite. The newer machines have electronic valves, an electronic control joystick, and you can actually use a receiver like this that will go to a computer box in the dozer, and then it will tie into those electronic valves, and it will operate the blade for you. But this is not that fancy. I mean, you can still use this same setup on a newer dozer as well, and manually control it, and that is the cheapest and easiest setup to do. But if you want to be easiest operating, you will need to go ahead and get the fancier setup if you have a newer dozer, and you want to be lazy and just put it in auto and drive along and let it kind of do the work for you. But this is not that fancy, so this is just an indicate only system. I'll figure out what size these nuts are so I can get a wrench or socket. I'll just get a socket because this will open up here. We'll get this sucker set up on that pole up there. Make sure it's all going to fit correctly. We gotta see what size the socket here is. Okay, seems to be a 16 millimeter, or it's probably a 5/8. I don't know. Those are somewhat interchangeable there. And I've got this this pole set up on the right side of the dozer here because I think that's kind of what we're going to want for the job that I have in mind to do with this. All right, so that should go up there just like that right there. And of course you can adjust this up and down your vibration pole here, or dozer mast, whatever you want to call it, and get your height right where it's in your laser beam. And of course you can also adjust your laser. So let's see, power button's on the bottom right now. That should be plenty visible. That's your fine adjustment, coarse adjustment, and that cycles through when you power off. So that should work just fine. I think you can run this thing upside down as well, or like this. I don't think it matters. You can take it off, flip it over, put it on the outside of the pole if that's what makes you happy, I believe. And we can also unbolt this pole, put it on that side, and do it that way. But I think this right here is going to give us a good coverage with the laser based off the job that I got this set up for here. So that ought to be pretty good coverage there. All right guys, so this is the laser I decided to go with. This is Topcon Oriole HV2S dual slope laser. It will do a slope in 2 different directions at 5%. I kind of wanted one that would do more than 5%, but the price of these things are kind of ridiculous. So anyway, here it is. I was originally looking at a single slope laser, which would be the Oriole H5A, I believe, but it does not have a screen right here. And I've got a project that a friend of mine asked me about if I could do. It's a drainage project, and he asked me could I do it, and I told him that I would have to get a better laser than what I had that would do slope. So I was looking at that one, and it'll only do single slope. May need a laser that will do dual slope on this project. I probably could have got by with a single slope, wasn't sure. I want to make sure I had what I needed. Also, the single slope laser, it's considerably cheaper, but this one here will allow you to set the percentages of the grade on the screen here, and if you need to move the laser for something, that'll be really handy. This project's probably going to take a course over a multitude of days when I have time. So once I establish the slope and know what it is, I can go back out there, throw this up, punch in the percentage again. If it's a 1% slope, all I got to do is turn it on, go to 1% slope on whichever axis I need it, and it'll be right. Whereas if I go with the other one, you have to manually walk out there every time and set it up and calculate it manually, and measure with a tape measure and adjust it accordingly, and it's kind of hard to do with one person. This one here you can set up with one person. This is the new HV2S series. This replaced the SV2S series that was really common with a lot of contractors. The difference is the SV2S had a remote with it, and the HV2S does not have a remote with it. So they saved a little money in manufacturing and whatnot by not having to ship a remote with it. But it's Bluetooth, and you have an app on your phone right here called Laser Manager, And if you turn this thing on, you can pull it up here. Let me set this thing up straight. Let me get to set it over here somewhere else here. It's got to be somewhat straight, don't have to be perfectly straight. We'll power this thing on here. This thing has a head inside of here that spins, for those of you who don't know anything about this. And the slope part means that head in there will tilt back and forth. You can adjust your angle on it. But it only goes up to 5% on this laser. It will self-level to 5%. As you see, we're on this dozer track and it's leaning downhill. If we're in 5%, it's going to self-level and start spinning, and you can kind of see the head in there leveling itself up now. You hear it working. If it's within 5%, it's going to start spinning and shoot out a level line. And it includes this detector right here, and this is a miniature version of the bigger detector I just showed. This goes on a grade stick, so you can check grade. That's on grade right there. And you won't be able to see this line that you might can see on camera. You won't be able to see this outside, but the detector will pick it up. So anyway, that's how that works. You put that on your grade rod, and then this here, as I say, has slope in it. And we have an app on our phone here that it will pull up this here. We'll get it to pair. And then we can adjust on our phone our X and Y slope and several other things here. We want to change the angle. We'll just go here and click set. This app right here will work for other things. This says -15 to +15, but this particular laser will not do but 5%. I would really like one that would do a little more, just in case I run into that. But you can buy a tilt plate for this to go on top of your tripod, and you can put it in a manual mode, and it will do 15% in a manual mode on a single slope application, I believe. But anyway, that's how that works. You set this up on this tripod right here. I went with the little bigger tripod, and FedEx just pretty well wrecked this thing. As you see here, it came through the box, and looks like they threw it out the back of the truck and slid it down the road, and then went back and picked it up. It's got a few dents and dings in the legs on the back side here, but I'm not going to bother sending it back because I don't really have time to wait. Don't feel like messing with it. But this here will set up, and that goes on top of here, and this is a hand crank style elevating tripod versus a regular style that most people use. This elevation here will allow you to crank this thing up. Say you got your angle and everything, or you got your grade, but you want to change your grade an inch or two. So this tripod here has a hand crank on it that will allow you to crank this thing up or down. It has measurements on it, and those are not in inches. I don't know what they are, maybe centimeters. But either way, that will be beneficial if you want to crank it up a specific amount. You just come over and crank your laser up or down, and your laser sits up here on this plate, and you snug everything down, and it shoots the grade across to your detector up there, and that will put you on grade.